Welcome to the Goliath Sourcing Academy podcast, where we talk all things property deal sourcing, packaging, business systems, and outsourcing. Whether you're sourcing for yourself, packaging deals for others, or a bit of both, then you're listening to the right podcast. Get more strategies, tactics, and tips for sourcing killer property deals over at GoliathSourcingAcademy.com. Now, here are your hosts, Mark Dunsmore and Brad Lazarus.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Goliath Sourcing Academy podcast. This is session 16, not easy to say. My name is Brad Lazarus and I'm here with my co-host, Mark Dunsmore.
Hi everybody.
How's it going, Mark? You ready for...
Oh, very good.
We're recording this just 5 days before Christmas. How exciting.
It is crazy.
Isn't
it
it
really
crazy?
is crazy. Can't believe how quickly this year has gone.
I know, it's a bit mental, isn't it? It's good though, all good. So have we got any... I just suddenly realised I'm looking at our running order going, oh, we've got no talking point.
No, we have no talking point. Let's go on with the show.
Yeah, we've got no talking point this week. So
Let's not talk about anything.
yeah.
I think we could talk about the fact that Christmas has rapidly approached us. We're completely... I can't believe it's 5 days away. And, well, looking at my schedule coming up, I'm in Scotland tomorrow and Thursday, getting ready for our big plans up there. Then back down Friday, and then it's, well, Christmas Eve Saturday.
Yeah.
So it's
all good. All good.
It
Well,
is.
we're going to find out. We'll find out in the next podcast a little bit about the plans for... We'll tell people about the plans for Scotland. But that's all looking very exciting. So I actually think that we should probably just kind of tell people what's in the show this week, shouldn't we?
Yes, I think we should. Let's crack on.
Failing any content to talk about prior to telling what people's in the show. Right, so the Goliath Facebook group Q&A session. Who have we got? This is a question from Richard Haines.
It is. Richard has asked a really good question. Actually, it's one that we've been asked before, and I thought we'd make a more formal answer this time round, just with regards to marketing. And his question was, well, I'm about to start sending out my first direct mail campaign and wondered if anyone could offer any insight into how best to address the envelope to get the best open rate. And what we wanted to sort of cover in this is all the different things like the envelopes, handwritten, color, and also what we'll go into in a bit more detail is if you can find the name, all the better. But if you can't, there's still ways to get that letter open. So good question, and one that's perfect for everyone that's going to start their direct mail campaigns up again in the new year.
Good stuff. Excellent. And sourcing with Mark this week, where this is a hot topic, isn't it?
It is the hot topic, and it was actually the reason I have recorded this sourcing with Mark was there was a question in the Facebook group. Well, actually, there was a video question from Tom Henderson, Hendo, with regards to sourcing flips, and they've got a sourcing business, and they've got a number of clients coming up to them now looking for flips. So buy, refurb, sell properties, and so I thought, you know what? Let's do a full-on session with Mark on sourcing with Mark on the flip strategy. So that promises to be a good one. It's a full 12 minutes. I stretched it right to the edge this time, and I was struggling to fit it all in, to be fair. So,
so that's flips, the hot strategy for 2017. ... But how do you find them? Question mark.
Yes.
Written
Even
like
Brad
a
was impressed by my
written like a
marketing
proper
title.
Proper copywriting. I like it. You like it.
You are rubbing off on me.
Yeah, something's coming up and we're doing something right. So
Yeah, hopefully that's it.
yeah, so in the lab with Brad this week, you're actually borrowing 2 of my minutes because mine's about 8 minutes. So I've got
teamwork.
Yeah, what exactly is SEO, search engine optimization, and how to get started doing it? So there's quite a lot of kind of mystery and myth around SEO, and it's again one of these kind of internet marketing-y type topics, which is very deep and wide, and it's difficult to kind of make sense of it. So I'll try and kind of debunk some of the myth. Is that the right word?
Yes,
Yeah,
we'll take
good.
that debunk.
And just give some kind of foundational introduction, really, to what SEO is, and then also a little just a few kind of points, like we always try to do in our segments, just a few points that you can actually go and action, and a free resource and download that goes with that as well. So we'll tell you more about that in the show. So on that note, let's get on with the show.
Now it's time for the Goliath Facebook group Q&A session. Got any burning property sourcing related questions? Tap into the minds of hundreds of property pros just like you inside our free Facebook group. Head over to www.goliathfbgroup.com.
Right, so as we alluded to earlier on, Richard Haines' question this session is with regards to direct mail campaigns and how best to address the envelopes. So there are key elements to direct mail campaigns. One of the main reasons we send direct mail is hopefully to get them opened and read. And of course, the best way to get something opened and read is to address it to the person's name. So if we can get the person's name, all the better. But what's really important is that there are certainly much better ways in terms of getting envelopes opened dependent on the strategy that you're sending. So a really important way of thinking about this, of course, is if you are sending letters to potential repossession cases, so people that are maybe in financial difficulty, you're targeting that sort of demographic, the chances of an official looking envelope being opened reduces. And the reason being that what you tend to find is that a lot of people in that position think that official looking envelopes with the printed address, the window envelopes, all the barcodes on the envelope, that sort of thing, is an official letter, maybe looking for more money off them. It might be a bill or anything else. So they ignore them, really. It's sad to think, but that's what people do. They ignore these and put them in they probably don't even put them in a drawer. They probably just throw them in the bin and never read them. So if you're targeting people for that strategy, for the BMV strategy in maybe sort of a lower income demographic area, so what I would recommend is handwritten envelopes, and potentially handwritten envelopes on coloured envelopes. So at this time of year, red ones are quite good because they think they're Christmas cards. You could even maybe put the message on a card, fold the card in half and put it into the envelope. The chances are very high that that is going to get opened. We really approach most of our direct mail campaigns on a corporate basis. So we send the letters out to landlords, to people with their properties currently on the market. So we actually send the letters in window envelopes. I think that's right, Brad, isn't it? All of ours go out in window envelopes with printed addresses.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we can get kind of more volume out. There is a school of thought that the handwritten ones are better, but I think the personal approach, just on that, we've done personal approach and corporate approach, but both are still with the window in the envelope, which from our testing seems to have worked.
Yes, and I think we've never really gone after the sort of volume, send it into an area with, like, say, the lower demographic area and just carpet bomb a whole area. But I do know that people have had a lot of success from handwritten envelopes. I mean, you can even get, weirdly, I got a Christmas card from a direct mail company that I'm speaking with at the moment, and the envelope was a printed handwritten. Does that even make sense? Printed, giving the impression of handwritten on the envelope with a Christmas card in it. And I opened it up thinking, oh, who's this from? And I wouldn't say I was disappointed that it wasn't from someone I knew, but it wasn't what I thought it was. But I opened it, and in opening it, I also read it. So, and it was a nice touch. I mean, we went into, I think, we discussed Christmas cards last session, didn't we?
We did, yeah.
And I can tell everyone now that Christmas card is not on my mantelpiece advertising the brand in my house. So just that's demonstration of what we practice, what we say is what we preach. But yeah, so Richard, I mean, back to the question, but I would say that, if you've got time to handwrite envelopes, or you can go to some of these mail companies where they will do like a printed handwritten envelope. Certainly, it's worth a try.
Or you can find
But
someone locally.
yeah, or find someone locally to, or you could even get your kids to do it if your kids' handwriting is neat enough. I mean, that would almost be guaranteed to get open, but it could take you 4 weeks to send a direct mail campaign.
Yes.
But
and there's no guarantee it's going to go where you want it to go. Yeah.
No, there absolutely isn't. No.
Particularly this time of year, Santa's going to get a whole load of options for somebody to buy his grotto.
It'd be funny if he replied. Time's getting tough. Amazon taking a lot of business away. So yeah, I mean, the other thing which I wanted to make really clear is the names. Anything with a name is much more likely to get opened than something addressed to the homeowner or to the resident or to the tenant or anything like that. So there are ways to get the names. There are websites such as tracegenie.com. Is it tracegenie.com or .co.uk?
Not sure.
Trace Genie, anyway.
If you just Google it, yeah.
Yeah, Trace Genie, who we use. And then there's also 192.com, where what they will give you is the most recent name on the electoral roll, if available, who's living at the property. So it's a lot cheaper than getting the title deeds for every property at £3 a go. But if you can get the names, all the better. Now, you're not always going to be able to get the names, or you might find that if you're writing to the homeowner and you know that the property's tenanted, you are going to have to somehow get that letter to the homeowner. And a good way of doing that is making sure that you put something like private and confidential, or to be opened by the homeowner only, and make it, that is something where you might find it on a more corporate level might be more likely to be opened. But if you can get the name, if not, just try and do anything that will help make it more look more urgent to open. And again, if you're writing to tenants, so I know some of you are writing to tenants in order to try and get them to pass your details on to the landlord. You can get a lot of tenants will register on the electoral roll, so you can get that information on the electoral roll information, i.e. 192.com Trace Genie. And again, I would probably use a handwritten envelope and on a coloured envelope, a handwritten coloured envelope for the tenants to open it, and that should get you a much better response. So hopefully, Richard, that will give you a few different things to think about, and keep us posted on how you're getting on. It's always good to hear other people's marketing. We don't profess to be the only marketing gurus in the world, so we're always interested in hearing how people's techniques are going. We know what works for us, but it's always good to see what's going out there. So please do post in the group.
Yeah, I think the thing about there's always another way to connect or to engage or to ensure an audience or a market receives what it is that you're sending. There's always other ways to do it, and I think ultimately it's about who are you sending this piece of mail to, and what's their mindset when they might receive it. And I think if you can think that through, you're halfway towards knowing and understanding what type of direct mail piece you should be sending. Because ultimately people will. There was a very famous direct response marketer called Gary Halbert, and he always used to talk about the fact that people sort their mail over the bin. And you'd literally have 5 or 6 letters, and they would probably keep 1 or 2 of them. The others would just be thrown away. But you only throw that letter away if it's something that doesn't register in the receiver's head that it is important and should be opened. So that's just something to think about as you decide which of these methods to use.
Almost Covey's 7 what was it, 7 whatever
habits.
It is,
yeah, 7
habits start with the end in mind.
Yeah.
So it's exactly the same with your marketing. Who you're approaching, what do you want them to do, what's ultimately the end result, and work your way backwards into what's the best way that's going to get that response.
Yeah, I think it just needs a bit of thought. It needs to be thought through. That's the main thing. And get into I always like the term camp out in the mind of your market. So literally think how they might think. Set up camp for a few days and think through, how might a corporate landlord, receiving a handwritten envelope, it's likely to kind of spark his interest, but actually he's going to be opening his mail anyway. Do you need to go to the effort of handwritten? He's going to be opening his mail with, in terms of the way that we're sending mail out at the moment with the window in the envelope, he's going to be opening that mail. So it then becomes, right, that's the job of that piece of mail, the job of that letter, the job of the envelope and how it's presented to him is only to get that person to open it. That's the only job of that envelope. The next thing is you now then need to, the letter inside is the job of that is to get him to make contact. So each element has its job along the way, and that just needs thinking through. Good. Are we? That was all good. Are we finished on any other points to add?
No, we are done. I think that covers everything. But again, if anyone's got any questions about it, get in the Facebook group and feel free to drop a line in there, and we will come back.
Yeah, absolutely. So Richard Haines, thank you for that. I had a chat with Richard the other day. Actually, he was potentially interested in doing some content stuff for us. A firefighter, no less. Did you know that?
I didn't. No, I didn't.
So we have important listeners, which is nice. So thanks, Richard. More worthy than what we do, I suppose.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
we save lives.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you've got a question, anybody else got a question, go to the goliathfbgroup.com. You can get into the Facebook group there. And leave a message, get in. There's over 1,500 people in there now. The conversation's great, so you can learn a lot from that. Okay, I think we need to get on with the show, and it's more of Mark next in Sourcing with Mark.
Sourcing with Mark. Innovative and advanced strategies for doing better property deals.
Hi everyone, and welcome to this session of Sourcing with Mark. And what I thought I'd do, seeing as it's the last Sourcing with Mark of the year, last of the season, I wanted to go into a bit more detail with regards to the hot strategy of 2017. So the strategy that I really think is going to take off in 2017. It's going to become a lot more prominent with property investors. It's something that Goliath ourselves are focusing a lot of our attention on. And can you guess it? Can you guess what it is? Flips. So we're talking about buy, refurb, and sell. We're looking at primarily residential, but this is something that I know sources within our network and also from clients of ours, they are really starting to up the requests for flips. Now, one of the big reasons for this, of course, single buy-to-lets are dying a death. The government are really penalising. I say penalising, they're making life difficult for landlords as it stands. So investors are looking for better ways to get a return on their investment. We also have a lot more in terms of money out there that wants a quicker return. So not necessarily buying for capital growth, not buying and holding, but actually just making a quicker return. So that's a good thing. So of course we've got money who want to get quick money. So flipping is a great strategy for that. Another great thing for coming into the new year is that mortgage rates are at an all-time low. They're remaining low, and there's also incentives for first-time buyers, but also people that are maybe upsizing, so they're moving into bigger property. What that means is there's a lot more movement in that marketplace. So what that, of course, does for flips is it means that we've got a very good chance, priced right, of selling that property on to an owner-occupier. So ultimately, we buy cheap, we refurbish it to a very good standard, excellent standard, and then we resell it at the maximum possible price to an owner-occupier who's going to live in that property for a while. So that's the reason I think flips are going to be a big, big strategy in 2017. Now, the negative side of that, of course, is that there's a lot of competition. And there's a lot of competition for, in relative terms, a fewer number of opportunities. Needless to say, the properties that we need to buy need a lot of work doing to them in order to maximize the return for our investors. So those properties aren't in abundance. You've got to search maybe a little bit wider than your gold mine area. You might have to go a little bit further afield just to find those deals. The good thing about that, though, is that it's not particularly as location specific, maybe as a buy-to-let investment or an HMO or a serviced accommodation deal. Flips, when it's owner-occupiers, you can pretty much buy anywhere as long as you know that properties are going to resell in that area. So you can go into a lot more affluent areas. You can offer more money to buy the properties. And the key really here is to be able to step away from the crowd and try and go into higher bracket of investment. So not focusing on your 60, 70, 80k properties. You want to be getting up into the 150s, 200s, 250,000s. And there are many ways of being able to buy those properties with little or no investment or working with JV partners. But that is for a completely other episode and not one I want to go into today. So, how do we find these flips? So I told you the fewer opportunities. So what I'm going to do is, in this episode, I'm going to run through a few of the different ways of how to find these opportunities. Now, one of the obvious ones, estate agents. You're going to have to work with estate agents if you're going to have flipping as one of your strategies. You're going to do exactly as we went through in our very first podcast of how to work with estate agents. We're going to be phoning them every week. We're going to be bringing them presents. We're going to be giving them coffees, biscuits, sweets, whatever it is that builds those relationships up. You probably want to be building relationships with quite a few of the agents if you're going to go for the flipping strategy, just purely because the properties, when they come in, you want to be that on the first the call list for the first person that they ring. So just make sure you're at the forefront of estate agents' minds. And just remember everything that we went through in session 1 of the podcast, our very first session. So I'm not going to go into too much detail about estate agents because I've gone on about that in quite a few episodes. The other thing we've got is, because the buy-to-let market is not necessarily going as well, you're going to have a lot of landlords that are trying to offload now. So you're going to have landlords that have held their properties for a while, they've got a bit of equity in them, and they want to sell. So as they want to sell, the properties that they're going to have potentially have not had much work done to them in the recent years. They're tired, they've been tenanted, tenants haven't necessarily looked after them as much. Those are great flip properties. Now, the difficulty with the existing landlords is that they're investors themselves. They tend to want the best possible price. We're going to have to negotiate on the price. They also slap on Magnolia, put some cheap carpets in and think that that's refurbed to get a higher price. And we all know that's not true. So with existing landlords, what you want to be doing is you really want to be maybe looking to do something with them in terms of a joint venture, maybe an assisted sale, an opportunity to maybe agree on an option basis, but then have a profit share at the end. You can do the profit share whichever way you want, 50-50. You can have it 70-30 to you. It doesn't really make too much difference. And if you're doing this for yourself, that's a very good way of doing it. If you're doing it as a sourcer, they're not as appealing deals. So just be wary. If you're sourcing for yourself, that's a very good creative way of getting some extra deals. If you're sourcing the deals on, so if you're packaging and selling those for a fee, doing anything JV with a landlord, the existing owner, is less appealing. So just bear that in mind, just because the relationships, they don't really know each other. So existing landlords are great. Again, you've got items such as the HMO list. You've got accredited landlord lists, depending on the councils where you're listening in. Also, you've got RLA meetings, NLA meetings, all these places that you can go and meet existing landlords. Go and have a chat with them, see if they want to sell. And again, another good one, phone letting agents and just speak to your letting agents and see if they've got any landlords that might be willing to sell their rental property. Especially at the moment, for the next couple of months, there'll be a lot of properties with voids. December and January, if properties haven't filled, the chances are that they might be empty up until the end of January. A landlord might just be open to having a discussion about selling their property. So existing landlords, really good one. Now, it's been mentioned in the Facebook group, and it's a very good one as well, is unsold auction lots. So auctions, the best way to do this, get a list of all the auction sites in your local area. So auctions where they have properties within your area, your chosen area to invest. Make sure you sign up to their mailing lists. What they'll often do is send you out a catalogue before the auction, and then what they'll also do is send you out an unsold lot. So they'll send you a catalogue just showing you what prices were achieved, but it will also have the unsold lots. So those are particularly good properties to target. Again, I'd start by trying to build a relationship with the auctioneers, the auction house. If you can't do that, if they're awkward, if they're not being very helpful, then just do the direct mail strategy. Find the address, write to the address, hope that the owner picks up the post, and see if you can agree something directly with them. So unsold lots, target that, work with the auctioneer first. If that doesn't work, target the properties directly. And another big one, slightly more difficult to do, but a very good one to get leads once you've established a relationship, probate solicitors. So probate solicitors quite often deal with properties that are in need of a lot of work. They're going to struggle to achieve the price that maybe the beneficiaries are looking to achieve. They might want a bigger cut of the pie, slice of the pie, so to speak. So probate solicitors is a great one to try and work a relationship with them. Really, with a probate solicitor, it's not about compensating the probate solicitor. What it's more about is serving their client best. So always look for the win-win. Things such as assisted sales, exchange with delayed completion, short-term lease options where you can get in and do the works and then resell. And then again, similar to landlords, profit share at the end. Just make sure that they're getting a good deal for the price, but also then potentially a share of the profits as well. Again, better if you're on your own. If you're sourcing that deal, it might be a little bit more difficult. So that gives you a few ways to source flips. I'm conscious I'm speaking very quickly today because there's a lot to get through in this session. So just to conclude, unsold auction lots, probate, estate agents, landlords, letting agents. There's less opportunity, so you're going to be there's going to be more competition, so you just need to make sure that you're putting that effort in, building those relationships on Rightmove all the time. Set up your alerts on Rightmove, Zoopla, on the market. Remember, some agents don't advertise with all the different portals, so make sure you're signed up to all the different portals. A very important thing to remember, do not let deal desperation get the better of you when you're negotiating on flips. You can often get quite excited about nearly being at a deal and you'll keep increasing your price for the property just to get a deal. Do not do that. Flips, the numbers are so important on flips because that is your profit that you're negotiating away. Now, it's a much more risk. It's a risky strategy because you're obviously dependent on the property selling in order to make the profit, or your investors to make the profit. So just make sure that there's an emergency exit strategy. So if it doesn't sell, are you going to be able to just take out a good chunk of your money on refinance and then maybe hold it for 12 months and rent it out? Just make sure there's an exit strategy just in case. And just remember, be very careful with your refurb estimates, your resale values, because that is what's going to make the difference between a profitable deal and, heaven forbid, a negative amount. So you just need to make sure you've got the numbers correct, you've checked the refurb estimates are good, the resale values are realistic. Don't go for an overvalued property, go for a realistic value. And if you stick to all of those, you find the deals, you will find some very profitable flips, and you will have a very good 2017. So hopefully you've enjoyed that. As always, have an awesome Christmas and New Year. And again, for everyone, for 2017, happy sourcing.
Great stuff as always. Thank you, Mark. A real hot topic for 2017, a hot strategy for 2017. So you mentioned briefly, well, you briefly mentioned landlords attempting refurbs when trying to sell, and what they're doing essentially is just giving a lick of magnolia paint, throwing down some new cheap carpets. Now, do these kind of properties have enough of a margin in them to be of interest to investors as they decide to sell on? What's your thoughts there?
Yeah, so these are a perfect example of properties that I think are going to be the hot sourcing strategy for 2017. And I'm glad you mentioned it, Brad, because in my 12 minutes I ran out of time to go into any more detail about this particular type of property. But just to clarify the type of property I mean, the changes in all the sort of tax laws and mortgage implications and mortgage relief and everything like that, the properties, a lot of landlords are going to be offloading their single let portfolios. So they're going to be offloading their, one or two single lets, the odd one that they've got in areas that maybe aren't local to them. And what they're doing is these properties have probably not been looked at for a while. They're probably really tired. They've been not abused by tenants, but certainly lived in quite heavily by tenants, where the landlord hasn't kept up to date with making sure that the properties are looking good. So what happens is the landlord will then pay as minimal amount a minimal amount to refurbish, inverted commas, the property, which is magnolia and new carpets, like Brad mentioned, the cheap carpets. Everyone will know the cheap carpets I mean, where there's no underlay, and when you put your foot on it, you can feel the floorboards through it. That is great for photos, terrible for living in. And
it's office carpet, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just not nice. Yeah. And you can tell as soon as you walk into a house, when you're doing viewings, you can tell what they've done. They've just put the cheapest, they've gone to a carpet fitter and said, what's the cheapest carpet you have? And then put that in. That's basically what they say. And you'll also know because the wood chip wallpaper has had 18 coats of magnolia over its lifetime. And it looks tatty and terrible. And actually, those 60-minute makeover type properties, they've gone. They just don't sell well now. But landlords are still in that school of thought that it'll improve their chances of getting maximum price, blah, blah, blah. Now, there's two problems with these properties. The first problem is that there is not enough, there's too much work, for a first-time buyer who's going to come into that property and they're going to think, I'm going to have to put new carpets in, I'm going to have to put a new kitchen in, new bathroom, I'm going to have to redecorate, and it puts them off. They don't want that. At the moment, whilst mortgage rates are still really low, money is still not in abundance. First-time buyers don't have a lot of money. When they've put the deposits down that they need to put to get the properties, they don't have that much money to refurbish houses. So what you find is that the people that are moving want to move into something that's ready to go. So you've just cut out the first-time buy market. And investors, so people that want to take those properties on and flip them, or even buy and hold them, which are less investors at the moment, they also think, well, there's going to be a fair amount of work to do to get this up to a standard where I'm going to get a good set of tenants in with good rental, or investors are going to think there's not enough of a margin in it to make a decent enough profit for them to take it on as a flip. So these properties are kind of in property no man's land, really. So from a source's point of view, what we do so well is we go in and put offers in, and then we leave them on the table, and just everyone knows how much I emphasize follow-up. This is where follow-up is going to be really important in 2017. So you can go and offer on these properties. You need to offer at the price that allows for a full refurb. So not just a light refurb, they have to have a full refurb, because quite often you're going to have to strip the wallpaper. If you strip wallpaper, the chances are you're going to need to reskim. Reskim and redecorate. It starts to mount up when you start looking at your 2-3 bed houses. But that's what's going to need to be done in order to make the profits. So all you do is you make sure you go out and see these properties, you put your offers in, and then you follow up with that agent. If you've gone in with an agent, or if you've gone direct to landlord, follow up with the landlord, and you are following up every week, once a week, every week. Have they reconsidered? Have they reconsidered? Have they reconsidered? And you will start to find that these landlords are going to have to accept. They're going to take a bit off the price, and you can be there to snap those up and obviously get some sourcing fees in for packaging those deals on.
Good stuff. Excellent. Really sound advice for 2017. I think it's going to be big for 2017 as these new rules start to have an impact in a landlord's back pocket. It's really going to start ramping up, isn't it? So, good stuff. Thank you, Mark. Next up, in the lab with Brad.
In the Lab with Brad, marketing, systems, and outsourcing hacks for property pros.
Hello and welcome to In the Lab with Brad. In this episode, what exactly is SEO and how to get started doing it? Now, there's a lot of misunderstanding and confusion that surrounds SEO. So in this In the Lab, I'm going to try and untangle some of the myth and mystery and give you a foundational understanding of it in as plain English as I possibly can. Now, let's kick off with a basic definition. It's actually a lot simpler than you may have first thought. SEO, or search engine optimization, is the name given to the activity that attempts to improve your search engine rankings. Now, when you Google something, you get search results. Now, there are two types of results. You get paid and organic. Now, the paid results, or AdWords ads, you'll see generally as the top 1 to 3 entries and the bottom 1 to 3 entries on the search results page. Now, they're also characterized by a little green or yellow square with ad or AD in it. Now, sandwiched between the paid ads, you'll see the organic results. Now, the practice of SEO generally refers to these organic results. Now, Google shows the organic results as links to pages it considers relevant and authoritative based on the search term or the keyword. So how does it decide which pages are relevant and authoritative? Well, it measures the authority and relevance of a page primarily by analyzing the number and the quality of links from other web pages pointing to it. Now, I can't remember where I read this, but Larry Page and Sergey Brin, the founders of Google, came up with this concept based on the idea that white papers written by academics and such like on various topics would include citations from other white papers. It was considered that the more citations a particular white paper had, the more important, relevant, and authoritative it was considered to be. So simply, your web pages have the potential to rank in Google search results as long as other pages link to them. Now, I've simplified things significantly here. In reality, the Google search algorithm is massively complex and it includes hundreds of different ranking factors. There are teams of incredibly smart people over at Google that spend all day, every day, constantly tweaking, changing, and updating the algorithm with the goal of ensuring that the search results served to its users are as relevant and useful to them as they can be, so they keep coming back and keep using the platform. Now, the next question to answer then is, how do you get other people's web pages to link to yours so that you appear higher up in the search results? Well, great content encourages people to link to your pages, which sends a message to Google that your pages are interesting and authoritative. Now, give Google what they want, and you're a good further way down the path to search engine success. So as I mentioned before, Google wants to show their users useful, relevant, and interesting content. Now, there's another significant factor Google considers when deciding where to rank your pages. It's become more important over the last few years as social media has exploded. Now, this factor can be summarized using the term social signals. So when you write and publish content, if people find it useful, it gets shared in blogs, Twitter feeds, Facebook, and so on. Now, over time, Google picks up on these authority signals and ranks those pages accordingly. Now, I always think the marketing legend Seth Godin said it best. He said, create content that is remarkable. Now, what he meant was that you need to produce content that people want to actually remark on. So do that and people will link to it and share it. And so the virtuous circle begins and your rankings will begin to improve. Now, a word of warning. Don't confuse the quantity of links with the quality of links. It's vital to understand that having great content massively increases your chances of securing natural links from quality sources. These are the links that will help you the most. The days of buying cheap links from places like Fiverr and those other kind of outsourcing sites, they are well and truly behind us. So creating great, relevant, authoritative, shareable, and remarkable content is the fundamental foundation of any SEO strategy. But creating great content is one thing. Getting Google to realize it actually exists and indexing it correctly is another. So let's get into one more layer of detail here. Let's assume that you've created a few pieces of content that you've uploaded to your website. Now your attention needs to turn to what's known as on-page SEO. Now this is the practice of optimizing each individual web page in order to rank it higher and hence get more clicks from the search results. So to understand on-page SEO, it's worth a quick explanation as to how Google gathers info about pages on the internet. Now essentially Google is a massive database of websites and their related web pages. Now, there are, of course, billions of pages in Google's database, and in order for that database to exist, Google must find them and index those pages. It does this using what it calls Google bots. Now, these bots are often known as spiders, crawl the web discovering new and updated pages to be added to the Google index. As the spider crawls over one of your web pages, it reads information about the content on the page and then follows links to other pages within your site. This is what it means when a site has been crawled. Now, the info that the bot collects helps Google to understand what your web page is about. So it stands to reason that it's up to you to ensure that the info that's on your web page clearly communicates the content that's in it. That's what on-page SEO is all about. So let me give you a quick list of everything you really need to consider when you come to optimize your web pages for search. Now, as a free download, I've included an infographic showing you the on-page factors that you need to be considering. It's called the on-page SEO infographic checklist. So go to goliathsourcingacademy.com/session16 to get a copy of it, and you can use it as a checklist when you create a new page and also when you're ready to optimize your existing pages. For now, I'll just pick out the most important and the simplest ones to implement. So first up is keyword friendly URLs. Now in your page's URL, you'll want to include some of the keywords that best describe what the content of the page actually is. Secondly is the title tag. This is generally considered to be the most important on-page SEO element. Now the title tag again needs to include the keyword most relevant to the subject matter on the page. Now you can actually go and find the title tag of a page by hovering over the tab on your web page browser. So thirdly, the H1 title tag. This is basically the title of your page that the visitor sees, i.e. it's your headline, and you need to have keywords in your headline which are relevant to the content on the page. So fourthly and second from last is keywords in the first 100 words. So putting your keywords early on in the text of your page emphasizes what your content is actually about. And finally, using social sharing buttons. Now, I mentioned earlier that Google is placing more and more emphasis on social signals. So by placing these social sharing buttons on your page, you increase the likelihood of someone sharing your page or post, and that sends the right signals, the good signals off to Google. So SEO is a massive topic, and it's deep and it's broad, and we've only really touched the surface of it here. But hopefully this should give you some good introduction of foundational understanding of what it's all about. Now, if you have any specific questions about anything that I've talked about here, please post them in the Facebook group. I'd be more than happy to answer them and even take a look at your website to see how you might be able to better optimize it for search.
Excellent stuff as always, Brad. I love In the Lab. I really do love In the Lab. I'm still trying to find a Goliath
still
lab
trying to
coat.
find one to listen to. What?
Yeah. They don't work on my system. My computer just doesn't play them. But SEO, really good topic, and one fraught with danger, especially with Google changing their algorithms all the time. Yeah. And I know there is a lot of mystery around SEO, isn't there? So, and it, like I say, algorithms changing, feels like you're constantly playing catch up. But in the world of sourcing, in the world of property and what we do, is it worth concentrating time, effort, and money on it? Because I mean, I'm guessing it could be a bit of a money pit if you get it wrong.
Yeah, well, I mean, the bottom line is, as I said in the segment, the bottom line is if you give Google what it wants, then eventually, and you structure your kind of pages correctly in terms of on-page SEO, you'll eventually start seeing results. But giving Google what it wants is really you need to be creating significant quantities of great content. And you've either got to do it or somebody else has got to do it, therefore you've got to pay them money. And then once you've created that content, you need to make sure that it's sitting on your blog correctly, etc. So there's a lot of work involved in an SEO strategy. And as much as anything, you've got the bigger boys, like, if you go and do, sell house fast, you go and just do a quick search on that on Google. I mean, that's what in internet marketing world you'll call like a money word. That's a word that ultimately that's a phrase, that's a keyword phrase that has value to it, because the result of somebody searching for sell my house fast is that the company that they eventually go to they'll probably do a deal with. So the word itself has value, therefore there's a lot of competition for it. And if you go and you'll see all the bigger players that the fast house buying companies, they'll all be ranking for the same keywords that you want to rank for. So my gut feeling is to do the minimum amount in terms of SEO. I create some decent content, good content, and make sure that your on-page SEO is up to scratch, and you're doing your tags and stuff. And that's the free the on-page SEO infographic checklist, which I'm giving away this week, will help you get to that point. But when you've created that content, actually, you want to make that content as remarkable. I talk about remarkable in the segment, making remarkable content that people want to actually remark on and they comment on and they want to share it and they want to like it. That there's plenty of places out on the web to get traffic from if you can create great content which fits well on those platforms. So, for example, we're going through that at the moment, to be honest. We'll create a blog post, then that blog post will be turned into like a slides. We'll put that onto slideshare.net. We might go and create a video of it and do some talking over those slides, and that will go onto YouTube, for example. We'll then put that onto Facebook, and so as a video or as a link to the blog post. So there's plenty of places out on the web to get traffic from other than the organic search results. So the organic search results, which ultimately comes from SEO, is just one piece of the kind of the traffic puzzle. And ultimately what this is about is getting traffic to your website from an audience that might be interested in what it is that you've got to offer. So in my opinion, unless you've got big budgets and you're really going to commit to SEO and you're going to take on some of those big boys, when it comes to sourcing, I'm talking about here, I would just be creating great content as often as you possibly can, and making sure that you can syndicate it and put it on all those platforms on the web where your audience might be, and then that should drive a good amount of traffic that doesn't require you to go down that to take on those big boys and down that kind of organic search SEO route. Does that make sense?
It does. It does.
So that's my take on it.
I know that SEO is one of those funny things as well, that you can go and pay someone on Upwork, $3 an hour to do your SEO, but it could equally be as damaging as it is not useful at all by doing it the wrong way, isn't it? I know that there's people out there that use bad.
The Google algorithm is so it's so sophisticated. It's there to weed out dodgy SEO tactics, and it's that those days of, as I mentioned in the segment, those days of going onto Fiverr or going onto Upwork and buying link 25 link backs to your page with hypertext links of your keyword, they are so gone now. And you got to be careful because you can get blacklisted by Google, and it'll do the opposite to what you want it to do. It will kind of push you down in the search rankings rather than up. So you do have to be very careful. So create great content. That's what it comes down to. Create content that's interesting, that's engaging, that's opinionated, that gets people talking, and then they will share it. That's useful for people it's useful for a homeowner. They help them along their path. So that would be my suggestion. So, okay.
There are no shortcuts.
No, there really aren't. But have a strategy. If anybody is interested in kind of getting a strategy together and wanting to refine it, get into the Facebook group. Let us know what your 5-point strategy for content is, for example. And then I'm more than happy to kind of come in and kind of critique it and suggest ways of powering it up or shifting and changing it. So I'm more than happy to do that. So okay, so what have we got? What are you giving away this week on Sourcing with Mark? I believe it's a flip calculator.
Certainly is. So just to tie in with the session, it is our flip calculator. So what we use for flips, and there's not really anything to jazz up about it. It's pretty straightforward. It's just a flip calculator.
Simple but valuable. Okay.
Absolutely.
Good stuff.
Absolutely.
And in the lab with Brad this week, I'm giving away an on-page SEO infographic checklist. So this is basically an infographic which shows your web page and what all the elements that you should be looking at in terms of adding, keywords and etc. onto the actual page itself. So there's about 10 or so things that you can do on each page. So you can give that to a virtual assistant, and they should be able to implement that for you. So you can get both of those at goliathsourcingacademy.com/session 16. I'm going to say that really slowly. /session 16. Okay, anything else to add before we go and have our Christmas?
No, I think it's just a case of, everyone needs to use this time wisely, get ready for the new year. I think it's a really good time to reflect on the year you've had and really plan for the year ahead. All good things are planned, and Brad knows I'm not the best at planning stuff. I just do stuff, and
he's not practicing
Brad
quite what he's preaching there, listeners.
No, I don't.
But he needs.
I'm openly admitting to not planning.
I think this is for me. I mean, on that point, actually, I have been since the beginning of December. I've been really thinking through 2017 and trying to put together, firstly, put all your ideas down, just brain dump everything that you want to do in 2017. I think you need to kind of, in a planning session, we won't go back into the whole kind of in the lab here, but in a planning session, just it's a case of initially just giving yourself permission just to dump everything on a page and not have to put it on a page in the right order with the right schedule and timings and all the rest of it, deadlines. You don't need to do that. I think just get everything down on a page, and then you can slowly start to kind of sort and shift and shape a plan for 2017. which is what I've been trying to do throughout the whole of December. And then really get yourself into a first quarter 2017 plan together where you feel confident that you're going to actually implement it. That's that's what I've been trying to do, and I feel quite comfortable now, and I feel like, okay, we've got first quarter 2017 planned, at least for our academy stuff. And I can now kind of relax my head and, ready to hit the ground running early 2017.
Absolutely. And it's about being disciplined, isn't it? That's the thing. Stick to your plan. Once you've made the plan, stick to your plan, commit to the plan, see it through, and then reassess. Like we said, quarter one, quarter two, you reassess, sit back, and then continue with the plan. So, I don't practice it, but to be fair, once we've got a plan, I stick to it. It's just Brad's the plan man.
I'll report back end of quarter one, listeners, tell you whether he stuck to it or not. You said actually,
but I'm not on the podcast anymore.
Yeah.
I've left.
You heard it here first. That's you committing to my plan, basically. So we'll see.
Yeah, that's it now. It's officially recorded.
It's out there. Accountable. Okay. Well, look, happy, if you're listening to this pre-Christmas, happy Christmas, everyone. I hope you have a good Christmas and New Year and break, and we'll see you in early 2017. And if you're listening to this in middle of 2017, just ignore that. So I'll leave you, Mark, to say goodbyes.
Yeah, so again, everyone, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and as always, happy sourcing.